Emily Harrison thought tonight would be just another ordinary evening. After another day at her elite Beverly Hills high school, all she wanted was to get ready for her best friend Ava's birthday party. She tossed her designer backpack onto the bed, humming happily as she walked toward her enormous walk-in closet. But the moment she opened the closet door, everything changed. Hidden in the darkness, a pair of frightened eyes stared back at her. Emily froze. Her heart slammed against her chest. Her hands began to shake. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, with trembling hands, she grabbed the nearest designer shoe and pointed it toward the stranger. Slowly, a skinny teenage boy stepped out of the shadows. His clothes were torn. His face was covered in dirt. His lips were dry and cracked. Instead of attacking, he simply raised both hands. His voice barely escaped his mouth. "Please don't scream." Emily couldn't hold it anymore. She screamed. "Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos." Emily stumbled backward until she reached her bedroom door. Every instinct told her to call security immediately. The boy looked just as terrified as she was. "My name is Noah," he whispered. "Just Noah. No last name.
No explanation."
When Emily reached for the doorknob, panic flashed across his face. He begged her not to call anyone. He promised he wasn't there to hurt her. But how could she believe someone who had been hiding inside her closet? Emily demanded to know how he had gotten into the mansion. Noah quietly pointed toward the balcony. He had climbed all the way to the second floor. Emily stared at him in disbelief. Who would risk their life climbing a mansion just to hide in someone's closet? Then Noah gave the answer she never expected. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't running from the police. He just needed somewhere to sleep. Emily found that impossible to believe. Out of every house in Beverly Hills, why hers? Noah insisted he had no idea who lived there. He had only seen an unlocked balcony door. He slipped inside, found the closet, and hid there. Then he admitted something that sent chills down Emily's spine. He had been hiding there since the night before. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had slept in that very room, completely unaware that a stranger was only a few feet away. The thought terrified her. She demanded to know if he had watched her while she slept. Noah immediately shook his head. He said he stayed completely silent, too scared to move, too scared to leave. Fear had trapped him inside the closet just as much as it had hidden him. Then Emily noticed something she hadn't seen before. Noah's hands were shaking uncontrollably. At first, she thought it was fear. Then, his stomach growled, loud enough to fill the silent room. He tried to pretend nothing had happened. But Emily already understood. He wasn't dangerous. He was starving. For the first time, her fear began to give way to compassion. Keeping a safe distance, Emily opened the small refrigerator in her room. She pulled out a sandwich and held it toward him. Noah stared at it in disbelief, as though no one had offered him kindness in a very long time. His trembling hands carefully accepted the food. Then he ate as if every bite might be his last. He barely stopped to breathe. When he started coughing, Emily quickly handed him a bottle of water. Without saying another word, he drank almost the entire bottle. Now, Emily had one question she couldn't ignore. Where were his parents? The room fell silent. Noah lowered his eyes. His father had died years earlier. His mother had disappeared 3 weeks ago after leaving to look for work. She never returned. No phone call, no message, nothing. For weeks, he had been searching for her, alone, hungry, and slowly losing hope. Then, a loud knock echoed through the bedroom. Emily's mother. The sound sent panic racing across Noah's face. He immediately backed toward the closet. He apologized. He said he would disappear. Emily looked from the bedroom door, back to the frightened boy standing before her. Only minutes earlier, she had seen an intruder. Now, she saw someone who had nowhere else to go. Another knock came, this time louder. "Emily, why is your bedroom door locked?" Emily took a slow breath. She looked directly into Noah's frightened eyes and realized she had no idea what she was about to do. Mrs. Harrison's knock came again. This time, it was louder. Concern had replaced patience. Emily forced herself to sound calm, even though her heart felt ready to burst out of her chest. She told her mother she was just changing and would be out in a minute. After what felt like forever, the footsteps finally disappeared down the hallway. Emily let out the breath she'd been holding. It had been far too close. Across the room, Noah lowered his head in shame. He apologized again. But this time, he said something that caught Emily completely off guard. He believed he ruined the lives of everyone who tried to help him. Emily couldn't understand what he meant. Noah quietly admitted that everywhere he went, people eventually asked him to leave. Not because he had stolen anything, not because he had hurt anyone, but simply because homeless children made people uncomfortable. He looked around Emily's luxurious bedroom, filled with things most teenagers could only dream about. Then he smiled sadly. He was certain someone like Emily had never crossed paths with someone like him before. For the first time, Emily realized he was right. Curiosity slowly replaced fear. Emily asked where he had been sleeping. Noah answered without emotion, as if he'd repeated the list too many times before. A bus station, a church, a public park, and on some nights, nowhere at all. Emily's heart broke. He was only 16 years old. But Noah simply shrugged. Because hunger didn't care how old you were. Emily wanted to believe someone had helped him. Surely someone had. Noah admitted that a few strangers had shared leftover food. Others accused him of making everything up. The police had even taken him to a shelter once. For a brief moment, Emily felt relieved. Until Noah revealed that he had run away. Not because he wanted to, but because the older boys there made him fear for his safety. Emily saw the pain in his eyes. She didn't ask another question. Some wounds were too deep for words. Without saying anything else, Emily walked into her closet. She returned carrying several hoodies and clean clothes that her older brother had left behind before leaving for college. Noah refused immediately. He insisted they were too valuable. But Emily gently placed them into his arms anyway. Clothes weren't meant to sit forgotten on a shelf. They were meant to be worn. For the first time since entering the mansion, Noah held something that felt like hope. As Noah gathered the clothes, Emily noticed something sticking out of his worn backpack. He quickly tried to hide it. After a long pause, he slowly pulled out an old photograph. It was a picture of his mother. Though faded with age, her warm smile still shined through. Emily studied the photo carefully. She could immediately see the kindness Noah had been talking about. And for the first time, Noah smiled too. Then Emily turned the photograph over. There was a handwritten message on the back. If you ever feel alone, remember that kindness always finds its way home. The words lingered in the silence. Noah explained that his mother had always believed in helping others. Not when life was easy, but especially when it wasn't. Emily couldn't stop thinking about those words. She had no idea. They were about to change everything. Suddenly, the front door downstairs swung open. Mr. Harrison had returned home. Emily's heart dropped. Noah immediately looked toward the balcony, ready to escape. But Emily grabbed his wrist before he could move. Climbing down in broad daylight would be far too dangerous. For now, leaving wasn't an option. Heavy footsteps echoed through the mansion as Mr. Harrison climbed the staircase. Each step felt louder than the last. Noah wanted to tell the truth. He didn't want Emily getting into trouble because of him. But Emily knew her father. If he found a homeless stranger hiding inside the house without an explanation, the police would arrive before Noah had a chance to tell his story. Reluctantly, Noah stepped back into the closet, the same place where this unbelievable story had begun. A knock shook the bedroom door. Emily wiped the sweat from her forehead and unlocked it. Her father walked in with a smile and an expensive gift bag in his hand. He hugged his daughter warmly. But his smile faded almost as quickly as it appeared. Something wasn't right. Emily looked nervous. Far too nervous. Then, her eyes drifted toward the closet. It was only for a split second, but it was enough. Mr. Harrison noticed. Without saying another word, he slowly turned toward the closet. Then he took one careful step forward. Emily rushed in front of him. Her arms spread wide. Her voice trembled. "Dad, wait." Mr. Harrison stopped. Confusion filled his face. His eyes moved from his daughter to the closet, then back again. A single question broke the silence. "Emily, is someone in there?" Emily's heart pounded louder than ever. She had only seconds left to make a choice: protect the frightened boy hiding in her closet, or reveal the secret that would change both of their lives forever. Mr. Harrison stood frozen, his eyes fixed on his daughter. Emily refused to move. She planted herself in front of the closet, her hands shaking so badly she could barely keep them at her sides. Inside the closet, Noah held his breath. He knew there was nowhere left to run. Gently, Mr. Harrison asked Emily to step aside, but she shook her head. Tears filled her eyes as she begged her father not to be angry. Her words only deepened his concern. Then, gathering every ounce of courage she had, Emily whispered the truth. There was someone hiding in the closet. The room fell silent. Mr. Harrison's smile disappeared. Everything had just changed. Without another word, Mr. Harrison walked toward the closet. Emily grabbed his arm, pleading with him not to yell. But as a father, he needed to know who was hiding in his daughter's room. The closet door slowly opened. Standing inside was a frightened teenage boy with both hands raised in surrender. His face was pale. His body trembled. His first words were an apology. Instinctively, Mr. Harrison stepped in front of Emily. His protective instincts took over immediately. He demanded to know the boy's name. Noah quietly introduced himself, then admitted he had climbed onto the second-floor balcony to get inside the house. The confession was enough. Mr. Harrison reached for his phone. To him, there was only one logical decision: call the police. The color drained from Noah's face. He begged for one chance to explain. Before her father could dial the number, Emily stepped between them. She reminded him that Noah hadn't harmed her, that he hadn't stolen anything. All she wanted was for her father to listen. After a long, tense silence, Mr. Harrison lowered the phone, but only slightly. He gave Noah 5 minutes. 5 minutes to explain why he had broken into their home. Noah's voice shook as he began telling his story. He insisted he hadn't come to steal. He had only been searching for somewhere safe to sleep. Mr. Harrison wasn't convinced. He reminded Noah that shelters existed for situations like his. But Noah quietly admitted he had already tried. When asked why he had left, he lowered his eyes. Then, with painful honesty, he revealed the truth. He hadn't been safe there. For the first time, Mr. Harrison saw something beyond the fear. He saw trauma. Before anyone could speak again, Mrs. Harrison entered the bedroom carrying a tray of drinks. She stopped in her tracks. The tray nearly slipped from her hands. A strange teenage boy was standing inside her daughter's bedroom. Confusion quickly turned into panic. Emily rushed to calm her mother. Noah apologized softly, and Mrs. Harrison looked from her husband to her daughter, then back to Noah. She needed someone to explain what was happening. Emily told them everything. She explained how she had discovered Noah hiding in the closet, how terrified she had been, how hungry he was, how he had spent weeks sleeping anywhere he could find shelter, and how his mother had disappeared while searching for work. As the story unfolded, Mrs. Harrison's fear slowly gave way to heartbreak. Tears filled her eyes. But Mr. Harrison remained cautious. He knew sympathy alone wasn't proof. Stories could be invented. Emily looked at her father with disappointment. She wanted him to see what she saw. Not a criminal, but a frightened child, determined to find the truth. Mr. Harrison asked Noah one simple question. "What is your mother's name?" Noah hesitated, then answered quietly, "Grace." When he added her full name, Grace Miller, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Harrison froze. The name had awakened a memory buried deep in her past. Mr. Harrison noticed the sudden change in his wife's expression. When he asked if she recognized the name, she slowly nodded. Years ago, long before the mansion, long before the wealth, she had known a woman named Grace. Back when Emily was only a baby, life had looked very different. Emily stared at her mother in complete surprise. She had never heard this story before. Mrs. Harrison turned to Noah with trembling hands. She asked what his mother did for a living. Noah answered without hesitation. She cleaned houses. The word struck like lightning. Mrs. Harrison asked one more question. Did Grace ever work in Brookside?
Yes.
Then came another. Did she wear a silver necklace with a tiny bluebird? Noah's eyes widened. His mother never took it off. Mrs. Harrison could no longer hold back the tears. There was no doubt anymore. This was Grace's son. Emily looked from Noah to her mother, completely overwhelmed. Nothing made sense anymore. Mr. Harrison stood speechless. Mrs. Harrison wiped away her tears as 17 years of memories came rushing back. She admitted she had never forgotten Grace. Hope slowly returned to Noah's eyes. For the first time in weeks, someone actually knew his mother. Then Mrs. Harrison revealed the truth that changed everything. Years ago, when she had nothing, when life seemed impossible, when no one else was willing to help, Grace Miller had reached out her hand. One act of kindness had changed her life forever. Noah struggled to hold back his tears. He softly repeated the words his mother had always lived by. Kindness comes home. Mrs. Harrison looked into his eyes and whispered through her tears. She never stopped believing those words. A few minutes later, the Harrison family gathered in the living room. No one spoke. The silence carried the weight of everything that had just happened. Noah sat nervously on the edge of the sofa, holding his worn backpack as if it were the only thing he had left. Emily stayed beside him. Mr. Harrison remained cautious, watching quietly. But Mrs. Harrison, she couldn't take her eyes off Noah. 17 years of memories had suddenly come rushing back. When Emily gently asked her to explain, Mrs. Harrison took a shaky breath. She admitted she had carried the story in her heart for nearly 2 decades. A story so painful, she had never been able to tell it without crying. Mrs. Harrison looked at Noah with grateful eyes. Then she began. When Emily was only a baby, life looked nothing like it did today. Emily's father had left. She was alone. No money, no family nearby, no one to lean on. Some nights, she went to bed hungry, just so little Emily could have the last bottle of milk. Emily listened in stunned silence. She had never known how close her mother had come to losing everything. Then came the night that changed her life forever. It was raining. Emily developed a dangerously high fever. Desperate, Mrs. Harrison rushed from one pharmacy to another. Searching for medicine she simply couldn't afford. When she realized she didn't have enough money, she sat outside the pharmacy with her sick baby in her arms.
She cried.
Not because she was tired, but because she truly believed she might lose her daughter.
Then,
someone quietly sat beside her. It was Grace, Noah's mother. She didn't ask uncomfortable questions. She didn't judge. She didn't look away. She simply smiled and asked 4 words that would change everything. How can I help? Sometimes, the simplest question becomes the greatest act of love. Grace had just finished a long day cleaning houses. She was exhausted. She wasn't rich. She wasn't comfortable. She was simply kind. Without hesitation, she emptied her purse. First came the coins, then the small bills, and finally, the last $50 she had. Every single cent. Mrs. Harrison still remembered that moment as though it had happened yesterday. Grace had given everything she owned to save a complete stranger's child. Noah couldn't believe what he was hearing. His mother had never told him. Mrs. Harrison smiled through her tears. That was exactly who Grace was. She never helped people for recognition. She believed kindness wasn't something to keep score of. It was something to pass forward, from one life to another. Mrs. Harrison had promised herself she would repay Grace one day. She searched for the address Grace had written down. But when she arrived, Grace was gone. The family had already moved away. Noah quietly admitted they had moved many times while growing up. Life had never stayed in one place for very long. But Mrs. Harrison never stopped searching. She asked neighbors. She visited old streets. She searched churches. Every lead ended the same way. Nothing. All she wanted was for Grace to know the truth. Because of her kindness, Emily had survived. One selfless decision had changed an entire family's future. Emily could no longer hold back her tears. She turned toward Noah and gently held his hand. Her voice trembled as she spoke. His mother had saved her life. Noah couldn't find the words. He simply nodded through his tears. For the first time, he realized just how far his mother's kindness had reached. The room became quiet once again. Then Mr. Harrison slowly walked over to Noah. Noah looked up nervously. He expected another question, perhaps even an order to leave. Instead, Mr. Harrison knelt in front of him. His voice was no longer guarded. It was filled with compassion. He apologized. He admitted that when he first saw Noah, he saw only an intruder. He failed to see the frightened young man standing behind the fear. Then he made a promise that Noah had never expected to hear. As long as they searched for Grace, Noah would never have to sleep in another closet, or another park, or another bus station. He had a place to stay. Noah's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever offered him a home before. Mrs. Harrison wrapped her arms around him. This time, Noah didn't hold back. He cried like a child who had finally found somewhere safe. Emily looked at the old photograph of Grace and smiled through her tears. Maybe Grace had been right all along. Kindness always finds its way home.